We are on Facebook and YouTube and Periscope. No, Tamara, you're going to have to take yourself off mute. Can't see or hear you. I heard your computer. Oh, there you go.
Coming off of video. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Here I am.
How are you doing today, my dear?
I'm doing so good. It's
Good.
so good to see you.
I know. We have to have a conversation offline too, because
Oh,
a
yes.
lot is happening.
Good
We
things.
have to
Good
catch
things for
up.
sure.
Yeah, some good things and some things we have to catch up on as well. But
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking in here for, here we go. So I'm in the main Facebook group here. Let's see, there we go. All righty then. So everybody, put your city and state in the chat. Hope you are doing well. The conversation tonight is all about credit. So we're super excited to have Tamra Tolbert-Bush here. So we're going to talk actually about two parts of credit. The first is credit repair. And, how do you get to great, let's say great credit, not just good credit, great credit, right? And what great credit is, and then part two is what can you do with that great credit, because we are all about taking what God has given us and our resources and making the best of it. And Tamara has been a soldier with regards to both of those things. So if you have personal questions about your credit, we're going to ask that you either keep them very general, or Tamara does have an agency, a credit repair agency, where she can help you one-on-one. We
Yes.
won't, if you have a question, you can put it in the Q&A if you don't want to put it in the chat. And I may not even say your name based on what the question is. So I don't want you to think that you have to be embarrassed. But if it's a super, super specific question, I might suggest that you go and talk to Tamara personally. But other than that, tonight's going to be super exciting. So we
Yay.
have in the building, we have Kentucky, we have Charlotte, Jacksonville, Alabama, California. Want to say hello to everyone tonight. Welcome to the 10K Project. We are all about helping build up Black economics from the ground up. Anything with regards to increasing your income, buying assets, starting businesses, and building generational wealth. Y'all, I'm telling you, the Black Family Wealth Challenge that's coming up starting on November 2nd, it is going to be so good. So all
Beautiful.
I can say is you want to tell Lottie Dottie and everybody to join in on the Facebook group. Definitely have November 2nd at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on your schedule to be there, because the lineup that we have of speakers, of topics, of the way we're going to set this up, you are going to be so excited about this, and it's going to set up your Thanksgiving holiday, your Christmas holiday, your New Year on the right foot with regards to family wealth and your family bank. So we have here Michigan, we have Virginia, Caprice, and I'm already excited. Yes, yes. So I got a confirmation today. I'm working on 1 to 2 more really good people that would just be the cherry on top. But thus far, we've had some great people say yes, they're coming on board in order to share their stories and their information. And I think you're going to see results because of this. So
That is
with that,
awesome.
I'm sorry.
That is awesome. That's awesome.
Yes, yes, it is awesome. So the mission for everybody is whether you want to do it by yourself or you want to do it with your extended family or with what I call a family of friends, is for you to get your family banks together. And it is based on this book here called Family Wealth, Keeping It All in the Family by James Hughes Jr. So we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about the family that started out with $25 a month per family member, um, and now has 7 figures worth of assets and cash in the bank. And Capri's asking, should I start reading it or should I wait? Girl, start reading it. Start reading it. Yes, it's on Amazon. I suggest everyone get a copy of the book as well. So uh, with that, one final thing is membership. We are doing a couple of things within the 10K project, and we would love for you to consider being a member. Number one is we have all sorts of members only education webinars that we have coming up that we've done in the past. For example, I think next week we have a woman coming in to talk about how to invest in hotels. So if you've ever wanted to, I know now may not be like the ideal time to talk about investing in hotels, but guess what? The industry is going back up, and that could be something that you're interested in doing. We have a lot of interesting everyday people that are doing extraordinary things within business and within their personal finance. And our calendar of events is on the10kproject.com. You'll see some interesting things. We've already had, like I said, that family bank webinar. If you're a member, you get access to that with that family. We've had people come in and talk about different careers, different businesses that people are starting. I think last week we had someone come in and talk about super lean startups, again, for a business that people want to start. So we have a lot happening there. The second thing is we are applying to do something called equity crowdfunding, which is where the 10K project comes from. It's a very simple concept. When 10,000 people come together, put in $100 each, that's $1 million. The Black community can start funding its own businesses and profiting from its own innovation. So this is specifically for Black-owned businesses. We have already received a check mark from the SEC, and now we are applying through FINRA. So that's the second half of the process. It is government regulated. We all as founders had to get our fingerprints done, and Tawana and I have to go through an interview with the government and all of that stuff to be approved. But that is the ultimate goal, is for you to have a place that you can come to invest in Black businesses with as little as $100. So if you believe in that mission as well, I have to say, for legal purposes, we cannot guarantee that we're going to be approved. So I don't want to make it sound like we have it in the bag, but we have hired counsel who has done this before for other platforms, and she is working with us as well. So if you believe in that, you believe in us, you know, the greatest gift you can give us is the gift of membership. It's a one-time $100 one-time payment, the10kproject.com, to be a part of that. So with that, Tamra, thank you so much for indulging me, letting me do those simple announcements. And I'm going to let you get started with telling us who you are and how you got interested in credit and credit repair and credit health.
So first, I'd like to say I commend you, Cherie. I commend you, and I am so humbled and proud to be able to be on your platform and speak about what I'm passionate about. Um, you know, finances in our community is a much needed conversation that we need to have, and it is well overdue. And I am so happy that you all have opened up this platform so that we can begin to get educated and move forward with how we are to manage our finances and invest in our own community. So thank you. Thank you a million times over for doing this. And I know a lot of people are thanking you on a daily basis. This is awesome. This is the best thing that I've seen in a very, very, very long time. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank
Um,
you. And I couldn't do it without you and the rest of the community. So thank you to all of you for allowing me to do this.
yes. So as Cherie said, my name is Tamara T Bush. I go by Tamra T Bush. And I have been in the financial industry for over 2 decades. I am passionate about finance. I am passionate about helping people reach their goals. And, the environment that I came from made it very clear and apparent that there is a serious lack of information that's being disseminated in our community. And because of that, it sort of hinders us from making proper financial decisions on a day-to-day basis, um, and on a long-term basis. So we are failing to make the necessary decisions that we need to make in order to give us longevity in our finances from being young all the way through to retirement. So I have always been passionate about finances, and even before I went into business, I just tried to make it a point to manage my own finances effectively and lead by example to those around me that just need a little nudge. They need information. They won't necessarily ask for help. So I'm a firm believer that you need to lead by example, show and prove, and then if you build it, they will come. So I
Mhm.
am so passionate about finances and helping our community because we are 10 steps behind other cultures. So we need to sort of, play catch up, and we have to do it fast if we're going to be able to have a seat at the table, negotiate, and compete at a high level with our counterparts.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. So, but the interesting thing that's happening right now is so many of our counterparts are looking for us. They want to do business with us. And if I believe it's sincere for a lot of them, if we come to the table with our credit together, with our business plans together, with the other paperwork that we need, our accounting records together, and all of those things, I believe that this is probably one of the greatest times for opportunity we've ever seen,
Yeah,
personally.
I agree. I agree. There's been a shift,
Mhm,
um, with 2020, and a lot of people are waking up and seeking information. Um,
mhm,
you know, People have gotten to a breaking point and they are literally looking. Before we were complacent, we were comfortable with where we were, but now we're beginning to seek more. People in our community are wanting more information, or seeking more, because they know that in order to elevate ourselves, we have to get what we need. So 2020 did something to a lot of people. Our juices are flowing, our minds are moving, and we know that we have to do something so that we can no longer remain stagnant,
yeah.
especially with our finances.
Absolutely. So then let's just jump right in. Let's start off with, I think most of us know what credit is, but a lot of us don't know some of the details with regards to the scores, with regards to what goes into credit. So why don't we start off with that, like just a baseline of what does our score really mean and what is it composed of, and some of the elementary things that
All
you
right,
teach.
so yes, ma'am. So your credit score is made up of a few things. It is consisting of a healthy mix of the type of accounts that you have, how you manage your payment history, how you utilize your balances, and how you sort of, have a healthy mix of accounts. Um, I always say that in order to have a healthy credit profile, that you should have anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7 healthy, positively reporting trade lines or credit items that appear on your credit report. Your credit score is made up of the inquiries that you have on your credit report, your credit utilization, your balances, and the type of accounts that you have. So credit can be looked as a tool that you use to gain access to assets or other items that you need to live your day-to-day life, or if you're trying to run a business, or if you're just trying to build in general. A lot of people just look at credit as, okay, I need a house, I need a car, I need a credit card to buy things, but it can be used for so much more, if we just expand our way of thinking and utilize it in the regard of helping us, helping to propel us to where we're trying to get to go. So credit is been around for quite some time. There are certain laws that have been put into place to protect us while administering our credit.
Mhm.
Credit restoration really came about because, you know, there was some research done, and what was found is that um, a lot of companies were just simply not reporting the right information. They were inaccurately reporting. So they put a law into place and said, hey, if you are going to report on a person's credit, you have to make sure that every line item within that trade line is reporting accurately. And it can be something very, very small, a wrong account number, a wrong date. It doesn't necessarily mean just because the item is derogatory that it needs to come off. You know, there are a number of things that goes into restoring credit, maintaining credit, and building healthy credit.
So I, on Monday, in preparation for promoting, this topic, I did, uh, I do a podcast every day called Black Money Daily
Uh-huh.
for,
Yep, I know.
economic news from our point of view, right? So you can follow us on our YouTube channel or the place where you love to get your podcast. But one of the things that I discovered is, and you can let me know if this was fairly accurate or not, according to Experian, um, the credit score is made 30, actually, let me share my screen here so that people can see this. And you can let me know if this is true or not. Let me just try to make it bigger for everybody too. And it's a little blurry here, but can y'all see my screen? Hope so.
Yes.
It says here 35% of your credit score is based on your payment history, 30% based on the amounts owed, 10% on new credit, 10% on credit mix, and 15% on the length of your credit history. And I think this is just for Experian. I don't know if it's for all of them, but I wanted to get your opinion as an expert. Have you found that this is pretty true, pretty accurate?
That is actually really accurate. And it's amazing because a lot of people don't know that there are multiple scoring models available to the consumer, and each scoring model is this is what makes up the score, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
have FICO, and then you have Vantage, but there are actually other scoring models out there, but they're just simply not recognized by the financial institutions, and they're not utilized in credit decisions, right? So this scoring model is very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
This breakup is very, very accurate. Now, when you break this down, I've had clients ask me this all the time. Um, the credit mix and the credit history, the credit mix and the credit history. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I have all of these inquiries on my credit report, I need to get them off. But what a lot of people don't understand is that inquiries only make up 10% of your total score. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if you have 5 inquiries, it doesn't matter if you have 150, it is still only going to make up 10% of your FICO score. And
And I
during
think
the
that that's interesting because I didn't
yeah,
know that until I started looking around just for some tidbits of information, and I had no idea. I mean, I knew how important, for example, the amounts you owed were or the payment history was, but I
mhm.
didn't realize how little the credit mix actually mattered. If you have
Well,
everything else correct, right?
right,
then
yeah,
then
that's
then the
true.
credit mix is 10%. I guess because people have talked about helping their children get credit, right?
Mhm.
The old saying of, if you put your child on as a what, not a
Authorized
co-signer, but
user.
a
Authorized
co-authorized
user.
user, exactly,
Yep.
on a credit card, you pay it for them by the time they enter college, they'll have good credit, and
That's true. That is true, but
yeah.
this is the thing. So, you know, how early are you going to do that?
Hmm.
Because the sooner you put that child's information out into the atmosphere, the more susceptible and vulnerable that information is to identity theft and other crimes, right?
Hmm.
So it's like, at what point do you decide, okay, I want to begin to help my child build credit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's only recommended, of course, that you do it when they're of legal age, because you want to make sure that you're teaching them to be responsible and what it means in order to be an authorized user and how that's going to help them down the line. But people have done it way sooner than that, and their children have, they have no clue how to utilize their credit or what it
Right.
means and what it looks like.
Right. So then let me ask you about the payment history. If
Mhm.
someone has, let's say they were laid off or something like that, medical issues, et cetera, and their payment history hasn't been so good, how
Mhm.
long does a person need to have a good payment history for it to really matter?
Good payment history always matters. When you look at disputing payment history, well, let me say this: the longer the payment history, the better, right? Because you want to make sure you're showing the age of your credit, because that's part of that's how your FICO score is calculated.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an account that you have for 2 years, let's say you had an account back in 2005, right? You fell on a financial hardship, you paid the account off, but you closed the credit card. Let's say it's a credit card, okay? Even though that account had a healthy payment history, the fact that you closed the account is going to tank your score, because you
Mm-hmm.
literally just eliminated the age of the credit, and that is calculated into your FICO score. So I never recommend that anyone close any credit cards. Always keep your cards open, keep a minimum balance, keep it under 20, I would say 20% utilization, somewhere around there. But you always want to make sure that you have payment history, and it is always going to matter from the beginning of your credit up until the day that you go and apply for whatever it is that you're looking to apply for.
Okay. All right. The other thing that they had here that I thought was interesting was um, they had the breakdown of, you know, this is in 2019, the average FICO score was 706. Good credit is anything above a 670. And
Mhm.
then according to Experian, this is a breakdown of Americans that have good credit or very good credit. So what do you think about this specific uh, graphic here, saying good credit is anything above a 670 and very good is anything above a 740. I spoke
Mhm.
with the gentleman who told me he had an 800 yesterday. So, what do you think about this, and any kind of feedback with regards to this?
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do, right?
Mm,
So a person that has a FICO score of, let's say, 740 to 799, um, versus a person that has a FICO score of 670 to 739, the person with the 670 to 739 may be approved for a particular account because they have a healthy mix of credit. The person with the 740 to 799 score may be denied, although they have the score, they don't necessarily have a healthy mix of credit. And one of the things that I do know is that when you have people that have higher scores, um, it's amazing that the industry still sort of looks at you as risky, because if you have been able to display years and years and years of good credit history and you've reached that 800, it's like the industry is saying, yeah, okay, we see you. However, we know that you're going to mess up at some point. So it's like they're just waiting for you to have one bad late or something to hit your credit. You wouldn't think that it's looked at that way, but it is. But
yeah,
it's
that's
still great to have
interesting.
that score. It's still great to have that score, but you still, even with the score, you still need to have a healthy mix of credit. And a healthy mix, in my opinion, is 2 loans, 3 credit cards
2 loans, 3 credit cards.
at minimum.
Somebody needs to put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, a person is asking here, what if the closed account is paid on time, a paid off mortgage?
When you pay off a mortgage, it's going to tank your score.
Hopefully for the better.
Hopefully, yeah, your score is definitely going to drop, because again, that age
Oh,
factor comes into play. The purpose of credit is to use it and to show that
mhm.
you're using it over and over. When you begin to pay bills off, we think it's a good thing, but it's going to drop your score because you're getting rid of credit. right?
That's interesting, because I
Yeah,
can't wait to pay off my mortgage.
I know.
Look,
Well,
the
yeah, you
credit
want to
score is
pay it
just going to
off.
have to drop. Well,
You want to pay it
so this
off.
is, yeah, so this is an interesting conversation,
Mhm,
because sometimes you're so busy looking at one number that you don't think about the effect it has on another number.
mhm.
However, I don't think people should keep mortgages just to keep their credit score high,
Agreed,
you know?
agreed, of course.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, you have to think about, what is your game plan? What is your wealth plan at the end of the day?
Yes, yes. And you can pay off all your bills, but if you know that you're moving into a direction where you're not necessarily going to need to use your credit, let's say you're building other types of credit like business credit, then you can sort of put your personal credit on the back burner for a while with all of your paid off bills, right? And focus on other things. So it really just depends on it just depends on what you're trying to do, right? So if you know that you're planning to buy a home next year, then you know that you're not necessarily going to want to pay things off because you need that minimum score to qualify, at least for FHA, right? Um, it's a strategy, and it's not checkers, it's chess. You have to be able to strategically look at your score and plan for the event to take place, be it you're buying a car, refinancing, or you're purchasing a home. Um, it's certain factors that you want to focus on leading up to that event. But if you know that you're good, you have everything that you need, you're not going to be applying for anything soon, years, to come, then yeah, go ahead and pay all your stuff off, pay down the credit card down to zero, whatever you need to do to sort of stabilize your finances is great.
Yeah. And this person is saying a paid off mortgage increases your net worth. I
Oh,
couldn't agree more.
yes, it does.
Right.
Yes, it
And we've
does.
had these conversations in 10K about the wealth gap and personal finance strategies for the wealth gap. Two thirds of white families' net worth is in their houses. And the average family's net worth is about 170 to 180,000. So y'all know I've been saying on here, if you have a paid off house and a little bit of cash in the bank,
Okay.
you've reduced the wealth gap
Yes,
in your family,
true.
within your nuclear family right there. So yeah, I'm still a fan of the paid off house.
I hear you. I am too.
I'll take a 670 credit
Yeah.
score and a paid off house any day.
I mean, because you can. The thing about credit restoration is if you come into a chunk of money where you pay off all your debt, and let's say your score raises 20 points, obviously you want it to raise higher than that. That's when you go into credit restoration, because it can be used as a tool to really weed out all of those inaccurate items. Now, when I say inaccurate, anything that is considered an illegal reporting, right? Because anything inaccurate technically is illegal. So if you have a negative account that's on there and you pull the tri-merge, because we always want to pull a tri-merge when we're looking at our account, your native credit reports are so lengthy, 55, 60 pages. And it's really hard to do a comparison and find those negative items when you're looking at your native report. So if you pull like a privacy guard or identity IQ or smart credit, you can look at it side by side, and it is so much easier to find those inaccuracies, right? So if you have a negative um, account, and you'll see one bureau may be reporting a $500 balance, the other 700, the other 800. That's how you know that it's inaccurate. So you can sort of begin to weed those items out. So now that you're debt free, you can work on raising your score by still going back to report those negative items, cleaning everything up, and get your scores up, to really where they need to be.
So let's talk about somebody who, you know, maybe they have, again, medical issue, laid off, just tough time in life, right? And now they are trying to tackle this, because I know that was what I did about 2.5 years ago. I got serious about just my finances, period. Probably it's probably been longer than that, probably about 5 years ago now. I really got serious about my finances, and the first thing that I tackled was my credit.
Mhm.
And it took 2.5 years for me to get it all together. I'll be honest with people. So it's not an overnight thing. But if somebody comes to you today and says, I'm ready, 2000, end of 2020 is going to be my time to begin to tackle this. What are
Mhm.
some of the things that people should think about and be prepared for as, they think about restoring their credit?
Well, the first thing that I would say is make sure that your finances are stable, right? Because you don't necessarily want to take on another monthly revolving payment by subscribing to credit restoration. Do everything that you can do first on your end to make sure that everything is in order, because during the credit restoration process, you don't want to have anything else pop up that is going to sort of affect your relationship with that company. A good credit restoration company will coach you to a point and not necessarily just try to sell you on the service, right? Because they want to genuinely make sure that your entire situation is okay. So if you have had a recent 60-day or 30-day late or a 60-day late, we have to really sit down and talk about that and, discuss, why did that happen? Are you experiencing a hardship? What is your financial situation? How are you going to pay your bills going forward to make sure that this doesn't happen? It's just going to make the credit restoration, it's just going to prolong it, because there'll be more things that continue to pop up that we have to try to dispute. One of the things that I would also say is that credit restoration is not a way to get out of paying your legal obligations. You should still pay your legal obligations. This is not, a lot of people look at it as a free ticket, which would cause them to be reckless. Don't be reckless, pay your bills on time. If you have an item that has gone to collections, then you need to pay it. You're not going to get out of paying the bill, because even if it's removed from your credit report, you're still legally obligated to pay if it falls within the statute of limitations for your state, right? They can still legally sue you. It is still a legally enforceable debt. So you really just have to take the time, get your budget together, go through your finances, and make sure that you're ready for credit restoration. um, are you in a situation where you're not going to have any more lates? You're not going to have any collection items pop up? You have to really look at it with, go through it with a fine tooth comb and make sure that you're ready. Um, One of the other things that I would say is to just be realistic with yourself. Know and understand that it's going to take some time. It does not happen overnight. Um, Credit restoration is not just a thing to get rid of derogatory items. It is protections that have been put into place for consumers who are falling victim to companies that are reporting inaccurate information. So you can technically you can technically dispute anything if it has an inaccurate reporting, right? So when people come to you and say, "Oh, we can get your student loans removed, or we can remove your bankruptcy," you can dispute anything if it has an inaccurate reporting, right? But you are still legally obligated for that debt. So you have to be ready for any potential backlash that may come about if, for instance, you had a hardship, you couldn't pay your bills. A lot of people, uh, that happened to a lot of people with COVID-19, right? So a lot of people fell behind because they were laid off. Um, you just have to just be ready and know that this is the right path for you.
Yeah.
Just be ready. But you need to have a conversation with whomever is fixing your credit, if you're going to fix it yourself, and just be realistic with yourself. That's going to be my best advice.
Yeah. We have a person here asking, is it legal for a creditor to ping my credit after 15 years?
I'm sorry, is it legal for a creditor to,
To ping my credit after 15 years.
when you say ping, you mean
I guess
inquire
do
on
an
your credit,
inquiry.
like a hard pull? Well, a creditor can do a hard pull on your credit report at any time if you don't have your credit freezes in place. Um, and I have credit freezes on all three of my credit reports.
Mhm.
So um, no one can ping my credit for anything. So I would recommend, um, they can do an inquiry on your credit report, but if that debt is legally enforceable, if they can legally sue you, depends on the statute of limitations for your state. And one other thing is that know and understand that for each state, the statute of limitation is different based on the type of contract that you entered into, right? So it's different for loans, it's different for credit cards, it's different for verbal agreements, right? Um, Written, oral, promissory notes, and open-ended, which is considered revolving. So you have to look at that account, look and see what type of account it is, look for your statute of limitations for your state. Even though they inquired on your credit report, you need to know if it's legally enforceable, because if they send you a letter trying to collect, you need to know what your rights are and if they can legally sue you in court.
Another question, please describe the pros and cons of a credit freeze.
Perfect example with whomever just asked the question that they just asked. You don't want anyone doing a hard pull on your credit report without your permission. That to me is the perfect reason to put a credit freeze. Also, it prevents identity theft. Me personally, I put credit freezes on my credit report because I had a bad relationship, and that person had all my information, like literally, because we were together for over a decade. So because I knew that he had that information, I had to protect myself. So I put fraud alerts on all my credit reports. And when they rolled out the freezes, they just rolled this out this year, did they not? I believe they just made it. They just did it this year. So as soon as I heard about it, I went and put freezes on all my credit
I know
reports.
I have a freeze on mine. I did it when we decided to really launch 10K. I did it just because all of us have it, because we were going to be, I felt, more public figures than we had been. So yeah.
So that is the pro of the credit freeze. One of the cons, I don't necessarily look at it as a con. It's really just an inconvenience. When you go to apply for credit, you have to take the freezes off, or you can actually provide the PIN number for your freeze to the creditor so that they can remove it for the purpose of pulling your credit. And then they would only have access to remove that freeze. No one else would have access to that.
Yeah. And from what I remember, 2 of them you could do online, but the third one I had to do manually. So,
TransUnion and Experian you can do online. It's the Equifax that's the tough one.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone for your questions. So let's then move on to the lighter side of credit and using your credit to actually build wealth. So what are some of the things that you have either seen your clients do, or you yourself have done to use your credit to, enhance what's in your wealth plan, or get you closer to wealth building?
I have actually purchased tax liens by using credit. I've seen other people purchase tax liens by using their credit, and it's just the concept of using other people's money to grow.
You're gonna have to tell us about that. What do you mean?
Yeah. So other people's money is using. Okay, so if you're working a 9-to-5 job, right, you're not necessarily going to use your paycheck to invest in tax liens. You want to make sure that you have a certain amount of, I don't say disposable, extra income to make investments. So credit can be used as a tool to make investments, right? So if you have a $20,000 credit card, you can use that principal to make investments, get the money back, and pay your credit card back, and then use the money that was grown from the 20,000 to make more investments. So in my opinion, your money is put here so that it can work for you. If it's not working for you, then it's no good to you. It should not just be sitting stagnant on a credit card balance or on a bank account. Take that money, use it to grow your portfolio to make more money, and it's just like rinse and repeat, right? So I really don't believe that people should just be out here blindly applying for credit unless they're going to use it to grow and make more money. We don't apply for credit to go and buy a bunch of stuff. We go to apply for credit so that we can make our situation better, have a better retirement. In my opinion, that's what credit should be used for. Not just out here, just buying a bunch of stuff,
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. I do think that people need to be aware of their interest payments on the credit cards when you're trying to do things like that. So I do believe that there needs to be financial education with regards to doing that, and also understanding how risky the investment is, Because, for example, with tax liens, it's my understanding if the person doesn't pay their taxes, then the county that you bought the tax lien from still is not going to give you the money. So you may have to foreclose on the property, or they may have, depending on what state you're buying the tax liens in,
Yes.
they may have other procedures. So you want to know what you're doing, in my opinion, or you start off small.
Okay.
You start off with something that you could afford to pay back from your W-2 job, and get that muscle working
Mhm.
before you put a whole lot of money in, that you would be depending on having. So what do you think about that, Tamara? Because I do think that that's important for people to recognize. I think
That
sometimes
is,
we get caught up.
you definitely need to know that. I mean, my first tax lien, I made $80 off of a $300 tax lien. And in my opinion, that $80, there was nowhere that I was getting that rate of return.
Mhm.
Um,
That's great
Not in a
return.
savings account or a CD or,
Mhm.
you know, anything. So if you know the interest rate on your credit card, by all means, you need to seek out investments that's going to be a higher rate of return.
Yeah. So what else can people consider with regards to using credit to build their wealth plan, or use it for their wealth plan? What other either types of investments have you seen people do, or investing in a business that they want to start and grow, anything like that?
I've seen people use personal credit to fund their businesses. I have also seen, which if you absolutely have to do that, that's fine, but there is another way. Um, you can use your personal credit to begin to create business credit for your business. Business credit is what I'm finding from my experiences and the experiences of those around me has been an answer to our community, because it allows us to have access to higher lines of credit faster. That is not based on your social security number. Um, if if you structure your company properly, you will have access to higher lines of credit. And then if you have poor personal credit, you can sort of put that on the back burner and just build, prepare it behind or restore it behind the scenes while you're going in another direction. But it takes a certain amount of startup money to begin to build business credit, because you're going to have to make purchases for these vendors to begin to report on your credit on a consistent basis. And you have to get your profile set up with the three bureaus. It's a very specific process that you have to go through to begin to build business credit, and it takes some time. So, you know, I always say work your 9 to 5 so that you can fund your 5 to 9. Be it your W-2 money or your credit, you need to be using that money to make money for you in some other way.
Okay, so first of all, I have to admit, I've known about business credit for many years. I've never had business credit personally.
It's a
It's just
beautiful
never
game.
been something I focused on.
Yeah.
We might have to change that within 10K, but I do hear that people leverage it for, investing in their own businesses. And a lot of times the investments can be super small. It could be a couple $1,000s is all you
Mhm.
need
Right.
to really grow. Yeah, to really grow, especially if it's a service business.
If,
Um,
yes, I agree.
yeah.
Service-based business, especially if you're a solopreneur, um,
Hmm.
you want to be able to utilize business credit to bring in those resources that you need to grow and scale your business.
Hmm.
Even if it's just hiring, virtual assistant to, do basic functions for you. Um, Anything that is going to gradually remove you as having to be the bottleneck to your business is always going to be good.
Yeah. So I keep thinking about the family bank presentation that was given to us by the Cook family. And one of the things that they told us is that, and I knew this before I had the interview with them, is that they have banks now begging them to borrow money from the bank. And
Mhm.
a part of that is, of course, because they have healthy cash balances and people see money coming in. And what they do is they take their family investment club / family bank money, they make investments, and then the bank sees the investments growing, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we want to loan you money, and this is part of how the wealth game is played, is the better of a steward you are with the little bit that you have, talking about the $80 that you got from that 300 that you invested, the better you are with the little things, the more the bigger things come. And I do think that for some of us, actually was going to do an Instagram live today, just didn't have time, about keeping up with the Joneses. And I think a part of it is not just keeping up with the Joneses, like from the, you know, the clothes and shoes and things like that. But I have been a part of wealth building groups where it seems like we're trying to keep up with the Joneses doing other things as well. Like, oh, they got a $500,000 business, so I've got to get a $2 million business, and
Yeah.
that they're buying into this at $25,000 in order to buy into this apartment building. I've got to get a bigger apartment building, and a part of me just wants to also warn people about the Joneses and keeping up with the
Yeah.
Joneses within wealth creation as well. One of the best things I think we can do is run our own race. So I'm still going to do that that live sometime in the next few days, because I do think it's important as we enter this as well. You have any comments about that?
I agree. I agree. I think that our biggest competition really should be, a previous version of ourselves.
Hmm.
You are going to be constantly chasing the next thing or the next shiny ball if you try to keep up with the Joneses. You know, our impression and concept of ourselves cannot be based on what we see other people do and what we see on social media and on TV, and because it's really just not realistic. It's like chasing I'm not saying that building wealth is not realistic, but when we're
Hmm.
chasing those things and trying to mirror our life after those things, is like chasing a fantasy, right? And it can lead to other socioeconomic issues with us, and self-esteem, and uh, depression, if we are continuously trying to keep up with the next greatest, newest, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
We have to stop that as a people. We just have to, just focus on generational wealth, building our families up, and making sure that while we're here, it's our responsibility to empty ourselves of everything that we have known and learned throughout our lifetime for the next generation, so that they can be better off. That's what we should be focusing on.
Yeah. So we have some great questions in here. So
Mhm.
first of all, Tasita asked, and because of what you asked, I think you're okay with me saying your name. You might need to do a whole session on buying tax liens. I'm interested. So I did not know until just now that Tamra bought tax liens. I've been looking for somebody. I actually had another person that I was going to bring in, but I'm going to do it probably as a panel discussion. And I can text and call Tamara at any time. So,
Yeah.
so we will do
Yep.
that, and that's going to be a bonus session for the Family Bank Black Family Wealth Challenge. So stay tuned for that. But we definitely will have that. So another person is saying investments do not guarantee a return. That is a risky way to fund investments. Um, I personally believe you start small and you start with what you can afford to lose, right? With
Correct.
any investment is risky, and you need to start off with what you can afford to lose, which is why I was so adamant about talking about keeping up with the Joneses. And I really want to do a session around that, because I'm seeing a lot of Instagram individuals talking about how you can make, $50,000 a month in a business. And you see 250,000 people following these individuals. And sometimes they leave out critical steps in the very beginning, where first you have to start off with, can I make $1,000 a month? Can I make 2,000 a month, and move your way up? So you're absolutely right that investments aren't a guarantee. This is not something that you do if you have no experience doing it.
You definitely,
However,
yeah.
yeah. However, I do think that once you have experience, then it's just like people come to me. I'm a business plan writer. They've been a restaurant manager for 15 years. They've managed every part of the restaurant, and now they want to own their own restaurant. Well, that's a lot less riskier than the person who's come to me who has never had any kind of food business whatsoever. And both of them would need $250,000. So that's the difference, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
and I also think that there is something to be said about obtaining the necessary professional coaching and guidance that you need if you're looking to move in another direction. And working in teams can also be very beneficial.
mhm.
Putting, and you've proven that, with the Black 10K project, it is, you bring together a strong team, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Put your minds to it if you have a plan in place. But investing does require the proper education.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of platforms out there that will teach you how to properly hedge against risk when you're investing. And they will lay out a process for you to follow. And as long as you follow those steps and you follow those processes and you make sure you subscribe to the coaching and attend the calls and do all of these things, then you will be able to be put in a position to significantly reduce your risk while you're investing, depending on the type of investments that you're interested in. So,
Absolutely.
just keep that in mind. This is not, a lot of people have preconceptions about investing, specifically investing in the stock market, and there is a lot of education that comes behind that. So unless you have the proper education, then no, it for you, it's going to be risky for different reasons. Number
Mhm.
one, because you're not properly educated on what you need to do, right? And two, because the market fluctuates, it's fluid, it's always moving, it's up and it's down. So you have to
Yeah.
be able to monitor that and make right decisions in your investments. So there's a lot of different reasons why investing is risky, and it's not just because it's risky. you know
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting because talking about the stock market, now I'm a long-term investor in the stock market. So I have a couple of individual stocks that I invested in about 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm keeping them long-term because they're long-term plays. But nothing past this year has shown me how one person could say something and the market drop, 300 points.
Thank
So
you.
because a lot of times people, when they teach you, either fundamental analysis or technical analysis, the candlesticks, things like that. I'm starting to realize now that there are things beyond that that
Mhm.
you can never imagine. Or, for example, when the pandemic hit and all of a sudden all of us were um, home, we were not using gas. So now you had all of these people who had, now these are like super rich investors on Wall Street. So, I believe most of them are. So they had all of these, they were hedging bets against the price of oil. And there were a lot of these traders that lost a ton of money because they did not think the pandemic was going to happen and people were not going to be driving.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where I think you always have to factor in the what ifs, and that's where a well-rounded wealth plan and a well-rounded investment plan happens. Putting everything in one basket, one stream of income, one type of investment, I think is where the most danger comes in.
Hmm.
Paul is saying some excellent things in here. As experience and knowledge increases, risk decreases, which
Hmm.
means risk can be decreased to almost zero. Many people are making 10,000 per day in the market. They have minimized the risk. Yeah, you have to know what you're doing. And to make $10,000 a day, I say start off with, can you make 50 bucks a day?
And you
You
make
know,
50 bucks,
right?
$100 a day. Yeah.
Yeah, and do it over the course of a few weeks, and then you get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit more, and never put in more than you could lose. Sometimes you have to, what do they say? You have to take your initial capital off the table and play with your profits as
Yes.
well. That was
Yeah.
something else that I learned many years ago. Another question in here in the Q&A. So I have a 700 plus credit score. Can I get a couple of credit cards and then use it to buy property and renovate for my LLC?
Anything is possible. And it really just depends on your individual credit situation. And if
Mhm.
you can, to answer your
Be
question, of
careful.
course you can, right? But be
Yes.
careful,
Hmm.
and everything, it, credit is not a one size fits all, you know, situation.
Yeah.
What works for one is not necessarily going to work for another. You have to really just analyze your specific situation to see if that is going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah. I will say for the uh, family wealth challenge, we are going to talk about different ways for people to use their money in order to invest in real estate, stocks, and alternative investments and businesses
Mhm.
without having to own, for example, the real estate. Because I
Yes.
think we see a lot of stuff in there that's traditional, like, oh, I'm going to go buy this house and flip it or wholesale it,
Right.
or rehab it, et cetera, et cetera. But there are other ways that you can use your money a lot more passively and still be in the real estate game. So we're going to have those conversations as well. If you want to be a part of that, you got to be a 10K member. So the10kproject.com. So I'll put in a plug for that. Anything else, Tamra? You were wonderful tonight.
Thank
But any other comments you have for the family?
Thank you for having me. Just one last thing regarding the credit. There, just keep in mind that credit. Your overall credit FICO scores and your Vantage scores are connected also to things that are going on in different industries, and that it is actually also connected to the stock market. So
Mhm.
if you are trying to figure out why your scores have had a dramatic change and you are doing everything that you can to try to dispute items and your score is not moving the way that you want it to move, know that there are other factors that come into play um, in how the scores are being calculated, right? So that's one point. My last point is know and understand that um, there is your FICO score and there is your Vantage score, right? Your FICO score is what lenders use to decision your give you decisions for lending, right? They're using the FICO model. Your Vantage scores is a scoring system that was created by the credit bureaus to compete with FICO. So when you're looking at Credit Karma, you're looking at these other services that are offering you low cost access to your tri-merge reports. Those are more than likely going to be a Vantage scoring system. And those are not the same scores that are being used by lenders to decision your credit. So you have to make sure that you're tracking the right scores. If you want to know what your actual credit scores are, go to myfico.com and subscribe, because that is going to be the most accurate scoring model that you can see. And it is going to give you your mortgage scores, your credit card scores, your auto loan scores. It's going to break it down based on each type of loan or credit item that you would get that tells you what the lenders are using, right?
Yeah.
Vantage scores, they look great, but they're only scoring open accounts and collection accounts. That's what the Vantage does. It does not score closed accounts at all. FICO scores everything that is scoreable on your credit report. So when you're looking at these scores, make sure that you're understanding the difference between the both so that you can know what your credit situation is before you walk into any lender. You should always know first what your credit situation is. Don't walk in there blindly and let them tell you what they see. You should know what you see before you walk in.
Right. And a couple more questions here. Is it wise to buy multifamily units with credit cards?
Mm.
I think you better know what you're doing. I'm
Yeah.
just going to say it like that. You
Yeah.
better know what you're doing,
Know what you're doing.
if you're going to do something like that.
Yeah.
Are you helping people with their credit, Tamra? Yeah. So tell everybody where people can find you. And
So we provide credit restoration services in all 50 states. You can go to www.source1associates.com. That's SOURCE, the number one, associates with an S.com. You can also find us on Instagram, same name, Facebook, same name. We're all over the place. You can actually just Google Source One Associates and everything will everything will pop up for you. But if you have any specific questions, you can give us a call at our 800 number, which is 1-800-889-4714, or you can shoot us an email at info@source1associates.com.
thank you so much for being with us tonight. We're going to invite you back for the tax lien discussion.
Yes.
And also don't want you to be a stranger. So every 6 months, I'm going to be tagging you again to come on and give the family more information. You know, we're going to be
Yes.
growing like a weed
Yes,
in 2021. So yeah, so more
beautiful
people are going to
thing.
need to hear this. So
Beautiful.
thank you again for being here. Good night, everybody. Thank you for being here.